by different acts. You take in photography class. You either know a lot about photography and you want to hone your skills. You know nothing about photography. It just might be interesting. Personally, I used to take a lot of pictures when I was younger in the 35mm film days. And just to be completely transparent, I met Lawrence some 17, 18 years ago. He actually took pictures at my wedding. And he was different than any other photographer I had ever met. Of course, I never really knew any at that time. There's only whoever I interviewed for weddings and weddings I've been to, and I never particularly liked them because I thought they were obnoxious and in your face, and every single picture looked exactly the same. But Lawrence had an artistic approach to the job, so we hired him. And I didn't see him all night long, and then he turns around and hands me like 1,000 pictures and say, "Here you go, have fun." And we had some beautiful, wonderful shots, and it really got me inspired to take pictures of like moments in time. I mean, what are pictures for? It's supposed to capture a memory, capture something that you like, something that you see. So fast forward, when I had more money and time, and I bought my 35mm camera and the lenses and everything else, and I got very much into it. And I'll never forget the piece of advice he gave me. He says the vacation's important, take a lot of pictures. So most people will take like one picture and then you're done. No, take 10, 20, 50, who cares? Natalie said she took 5,000 pictures. If she gets 100 good pictures, it was well worth it. If she took 100 pictures, she'll end up with one. Why do you want to do that? You want to miss the moment. So she showed you what, 5 pictures of the apple blossoms? How many pictures of those apple blossoms did you take?
7.
I'm productive, but like,
yeah,
well,
you took
a
tremendous amount. So like, so the thing that so then in going on vacation, I used to have to bring 25, 30 rolls of film in the little lead bag and all this other jazz. But when you got down to the end, you went through them all and you had a bunch of good shots. So it gives you a little perspective on what you want to do. So fast forward, I felt I needed to do something more creative, so I decided to take photography class. And the day the class was offered, I had called Lawrence because it was like 3 different classes. I wasn't sure which one I wanted. And he says, "Well, it doesn't matter, the other 2 were canceled, this is the only one you can take." I'm like, okay, that kind of makes a decision. And then it had the show at the end. I had no intentions of doing the show. I had no desire to be in front of everyone. Like Natalie said, I was had a lot of inhibitions about that, and I didn't really consider myself an artist. I want to show I just wanted to learn more about some of the technical aspects of photography. So Lawrence was very gracious, and he said, okay, yeah, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to do, which I know damn well at this point he probably thought there was no way I was not going to do the show, but that's besides the point. So, so we take the class. Now, the one thing that's very, very important with the type of camera you have to be able to have a manual shutter speed as well as aperture setting. And my digital camera, which is a small pocket one, couldn't do that. So I actually had to use my film camera, which by chance I just happened to break out of storage and started using it again just before the class. So that presented a little bit of a challenge because I would take 3, 4, 5, 6 rolls of film and have to give myself a couple of days before I saw them all, where everybody else was kind of looking on the fly. So I didn't take quite 5,000 pictures, but I probably took close to 1,000 pictures.
Which is a lot.
Which is a lot with film. But the funny part is, considering the development and everything else, I probably could have bought a new digital camera, but lessons learned. But with that said, the thing is, when I started to do this, I tried to think of, okay, what do I like? Like, look out the window. This is an absolutely beautiful building. It's like I could think of 100 different pictures I'd want to take of that scene. But not just a picture of it. Like, you do different things, the angles, the way you take the picture. And then the other thing that you'll find is, like, we did this one night, we went out in the park and we're following the sun, because depending on the time of day, whether it be morning, afternoon, or night, the sun's different way, the reflection's different, everything else. But what, like Natalie said, you get moved by these things. And then at the end, all of a sudden, things look different. So you walk down the street and you see a building, now you have a different perspective of it, because you kind of like the way the angles are, the way the light hits it, the way the reflection is, or a street light. Very mundane, simple things all of a sudden have a different interest. So I was very interested in taking pictures of like trains. I was going to do like trains, planes, and automobiles. And I very much wanted to get this imagery of like motion. So let me see if I can bring up my pictures, and I will show you.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, so I ended up at Grand Central Station, and I took a whole lot of pictures, and obviously this is what I conceived to be the best of the bunch. Well, not this one. This one was something else. So like Natalie said, you end up doing different things. So then I had gone to a cemetery, and I took a lot of pictures of the tombstone, very old tombstone. And the thing that really appealed to me was the close image up front and the blurred background. And that's when you start to try to do different things. So my series was actually all these pictures on the subway. And I did them in black and white, and I did them with a sepia tone because I needed to bring the colors out a little bit more. I thought it gave a very warm feeling. And this is the part that I said earlier where you spend a lot of time. And this was very basic. I didn't even get into Photoshop. This was just on my Mac on iPhoto, just kind of playing around with contrast. I didn't even go anywhere near Photoshop and trying to like really do a lot of work because I could see you could easily spend hours and hours and hours on it. So this is the token booth at Wall Street. I like the fact that this woman over here in the corner is kind of oblivious to what's going on around her. And this was Brooklyn Station with people moving. I had a lot of pictures here, but it's hard because then you'll learn some of the technical aspects about photography. And that's one thing that Lawrence does an excellent job at, I must say. He teaches you all about the camera and the shutter speed and the aperture and the ISO and what that means, but also the fact that the contrast on the picture, it was very difficult. The lights were very bright and it made everything else, it was hard to kind of get the right combination. But as you go through it, you start to get an appreciation for this. So this was the one I was saying as far as the motion. It's like everyone, the hustle and bustle of Grand Central Station. So we go again. The train coming by. I had a few of these that I really liked. And this one was great because it's actually people on the other side of the platform with the train whooshing by. This one I like with the guys walking. It was very funny because I spent a lot of time getting the color right because I wanted to make sure they stood out. They were a little too muted when the picture was first developed.
Is that Metro North?
That's Metro North, yeah. That's in Grand Central Station. So that was my show. Now, like I said, originally I wanted to do something with trains, planes, automobiles, and that didn't work. Then I had this concept, and I'm sorry I don't have the pictures with me, where I was sitting at a traffic light one day, and I'm looking at the rearview mirror, and there's like a car behind me. So I took out my camera and took a picture of my mirror that got the image behind it. And that was the whole thing I started to do. So I took all sorts of pictures of mirrors with the images behind. So the image in the mirror was clear, but what was around it was blurry, because it was usually further out. So we did that for a little bit. Buildings, I did a lot of buildings, and I really like that as far as like the structure and architecture and things like that. New York is a great place for that because it's everywhere.
It was one of the favorite topics of our group, I think.
Right.
Because everyone.
Everybody spent a lot of time on that. But the thing that I think, so the class was Tuesday night, and obviously it seems like a very diverse group of students. I'm not quite sure where everybody lives or where they have to go. I live on Long Island, so I had to stay late after work, go to class, and catch my 10 o'clock train and get home at 11:30. But I loved it. I felt great. It really made me feel connected. It brought out the artistic side of me, which I have never really done anything artistic. And then you lead up to the show, and it gets a little anxious. You're almost like a little kid. You're getting excited about it. And when Lawrence said invite everybody, do it, because there was a lot of people at work I didn't invite, and I had to hear it afterwards. And I would have came. All these people that I didn't even think even knew who I was now telling me they would have came to my show. All right, so I have to do a better job. That was one thing I didn't really listen to, which I should have. So especially if people live around the city, because it's easy for them to pop in. I mean, I invited people from Long Island, which didn't come. I didn't expect them to. But still, I probably had about a dozen people that came. I had a few people that bought some of my artwork, which was really kind of interesting. And the next battle you get to is when you do the show is to try to figure out how you want to mount them, what size pictures. And then it's a whole nother discussion. But it's also nice to have the group to lean on because you get some perspective. Like some people do them smaller or bigger, depending on do more pictures or less pictures. But the bottom line is really you have to go with what really you connect with. Like, what do you like to do? Like, why are you here? And you're here to learn, I would hope, some of the technical aspects, which Lawrence will provide to you, but also to enhance or bring out your creativity and do it. One thing I did, which I didn't have enough time, and this, because it's a class and you have work and family and everything else, I thought would be really kind of cool, being I had a film camera, was to shoot a roll of film, then put it back in the camera and shoot it again. So I'd have double images on all the negatives, but that's a little tricky because you got to kind of play around with it, and obviously I got to wait for it to be developed. So I did it twice, And the second time was better than the first. I think I did it third or fourth time, I probably would have got to a point where I liked the pictures. But then also, what are you going to overlay? So I had like cars. So I took a picture of a car going this way, and then a car coming at me. So you had like a blurry picture of a car, and then you had the headlights of another car. So it was very interesting kind of things that you could do, and it brings out the very artistic elements. And you'll be surprised what people come up with. Some of the things were really quite interesting. Like one of the guys on class took pictures of people's shoes. And the funny part, so he's in class, whatever, 12 weeks, right? 12 weeks, Lawrence?
Yep.
12 weeks, he did this like on one weekend, and he just got inspired. So basically what happens is the whole time you're in class is kind of building up your eye and what you think you might be interested in, and then one time it's just going to hit you, and you're going to just bang it out. So don't stress about what it is, because I got very stressed because, and the other thing which Lawrence says which at the time I wasn't too happy about, he didn't want to see anyone's pictures right away, because I think he wants to make you kind of really work through it, but that's what you have your friends for, your classmates. So you kind of talk about this and talk about that, and then you get to that point, because then it starts to get a little stressful, you got to put the show together, but it really does come together. It's amazing. I wouldn't have thought it, because I'm very much the person that has to plan. My wife jokes around that I have to plan to be spontaneous, so it was a stretch for me, but it was really great. It was a wonderful experience. I agree with Natalie, I'm very jealous. I wish I was sitting in the class again. So, that's it.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay. You're up.